Good afternoon. My name is Kirsty Dignam. I can't stop. My name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the weekly energies with today's Monday's Musings. Get that bit out. They say never work with children and animals, and I've always done that, and actually today I can really relate to why. This is my third attempt at today's video. I had been putting the video off, or at least finishing aspects that needed to be completed first, which felt poignant, and that was a real valid part of the message this week, which I still need to share actually. And then I find myself asking, why do I still need to share that? Because this week, if it's poignant, this week, if it's relatable to you, this week, if it resonates with you, it needs to be shared. Okay, so I've just got off the phone to a dear friend of mine, and I'm not in the habit of passing on messages unless asked. There needs to be boundaries for me, not only with people, with my own life, my own physical life, and with spirit as well, to an extent, obviously. Now, this particular person I'm absolutely adore, I'm very, very connected to, and in the pit of my stomach, I couldn't not pass on this message. This week, you're going to feel that. This week we are going to feel that, and it is about how we navigate those waters. Do we go along saying, I need to share this, this and this, or do we hold back completely? This week it's about finding the fine line, the balance, the knife's edge between what is applicable, what is for us to give forward, and what is for us to take on board. In reality, there isn't really any difference, but actually to the extent of which we receive them, there really is. And that feels like key. We can really take things on this week if we do not pass them forward. So for all my friends that are mediums or channels, things like that, well, anybody actually, you don't even need to be in the spiritual line of work. You know, if you receive something, if you have a hunch and you don't do anything about it and it keeps nagging at you, it isn't until you do something about it that you release that energy. So the message this week very much is, if you're feeling something and you're drawn to act on it, act on it. Otherwise it's not going to go. Okay, so the level at which you receive something, the level at which you take something on as your own, is going to be based on the way that you transmute it, on what it is you do with it. Okay, so that can be positive and negative if we're going to really split it up and see things in black and white. And that does feel quite pertinent this week, that we do have that logical, analytic expression, that it's that it just felt like something pulled me down. It's that actually grounds us this week. So there are times when things, really do need to be in black and white. Otherwise we continue going round and round and round in circles, and I can really feel that. So, okay, what came back from the first video this week was very much recognising, even though it may feel as if we're putting things in the way, those aspects are part of the bricks and mortar of the foundation that we're building from now until March at least. See that light coming. From now until the light returns in March. Very much there was an energy about death and rebirth this week, and to recognise everything that is happening is, what's the word? It's not fine-tuning, sifting. Is sifting what we no longer need out of our system. Okay, and obviously we like January to be these amazing new beginnings, but again, from now until spring, recognizing it is about really planting those seeds. Really chop wood, carry water. I said in the original video, if there was an archetype I could pick for this week, it would be temperance, because it does very much feel like head down, not nose to the grindstone. It might feel like that, but head down, really completing aspects that need to get finished this week. And there are times where we're almost going to have to go against the grain, which isn't something I would normally recommend. I'm very much about finding your own flow, and if you're having to really fight something, then there's something amiss there. But how badly do we want it? That's what I feel. How badly do we actually want it? So this video, for argument's sake, the first time round my dog interrupted it, the second time round my cat interrupted it, and I thought I'm just going to give it one more try, not attached to the outcome. The world will carry on spinning without a Monday's Musings. But in my tummy, in my heart, I wanted to share it. And in all honesty, when I first started the video with the interruptions, perhaps not so much, because I've had a very busy morning, so perhaps not so much. So I have great gratitude to my dog and to my cat for that. recognizing that we need that animal instinct on board, recognizing that we need that creative energy on board, that we need that drive on board. You know, when we think of the chariot, which is what this year depicts, we do have the Sphinx either side. We do have that guidance from the emotional intelligence, you know, and it is a very watery card. So really connecting to the feeling of wanting to do something is going to make all the difference this week. All the difference. And I feel that like a heavy phlegm on my chest, like it needs to be cleared, like a real you know when people do that deep cough, that, and what do we do when we cough? That diaphragm comes up and it just shifts the energy out. So this week, finding a way to really shift any stagnant energy from the heart is key. Does still feel like an aspect of grief this week. And when I say grief, yeah, see, this is the only card that we did have actually from the last reading, and it was the only, I say the only card, it was the only card that was upright. The whole reading for this week was upside down, apart from the overall theme, which is the 6 of Arrows, transition. Okay, so when I say grief, I don't necessarily mean the aspect, just the aspect of sadness. You know, when we are moving towards the life that we want, we still grieve the life that we've had. So an example, I received a letter from the NHS about my pension with midwifery, and it's something I've been fighting for over a decade actually. Yes, I'm really pleased that that's been acknowledged, and I'm really pleased that I'm going to get what is owed to me. But that also means shutting the door once and for all on an aspect of not who I was, but a way of expressing who I was. Yes, I'm aware that means the door is now being open for other ways to express who I am, but you know, there's still an ongoing process of grief there. So we can grieve the good and the bad, okay, what we see as the good and the bad. This week in particular, you know, we can have things come in that really, really help us, but the circumstances behind it may be sad. And that's going to give us that double-edged whammy, that double-edged chariot of gratitude. Not gratitude that we're used to, it's a more advanced level of gratitude that has that bitter sweetness to it as well. Interesting, and it's that's going to help us transition this week. So I'm not going to go too much into what the energy was last week on the last reading, because there was a lot of backwards and forwards, yeah, and the card at the bottom is the wheel. So, you know, this week there's a lot of embodying. I found it incredibly ironic that I was talking about with the cards, talking about backwards and forwards energy, and the videos were backwards and forwards and getting stopped and started. Once we embody the message that we are being asked to receive and do what we need to do with it, we can just move on. We can just move on this week. Okay, so with that, and that, you know, the other thing in the reading that I did previously, there was a lot of self-care coming up and recognizing the power of the vessel, the physical vessel, and the beauty of the physical vessel from now until March. And biggest thing we can do self-care wise is to decide to move forward. I was saying to a dear friend of mine, I didn't get my pension because I hadn't noticed there was writing on the back of the page that said I had to fill in forms. So I waited 7 or 8 weeks, and I phoned up the department today to say where was my pension, and actually I turned over the page and realised that I hadn't finished what I needed to do to get what it was I needed to receive. And that is quite pertinent this week, not just for myself but for the collective. We haven't turned the page yet. We haven't turned the page, and there's a lot of action still being based, and there's no judgment there, but still being based on the old story, which is part of the process. But turning that page, allowing ourselves to grieve for the old narrative now in order to move forward, is the biggest aspect of self-care that we can do. That's how we drink from our own cup, right? We just say, yeah, I'm ready to move forward now. Okay. There is no point having resolutions and plans if we're still judging them, monitoring them, living them, marking them by how we used to be. There's sometimes with my own disabilities, I get really frustrated, and I think, you know, all the work that I do, I shouldn't be in X, Y and Z, and I forget how far I've come actually from where I was over a decade ago, and we can do that really easily. This week in particular, if you do find yourself going backwards or feeling frustrated with where it is you want to get to, look where you've come from. Okay, so with that in mind, I have turned all the cards up the right way. That's the good thing about the stop-start energy. Three of Wands. Another card that was in the reading, actually, fulfillment. But I have, in the pause, managed to turn everything up the right way. So really acknowledging that this week, that those moments where we feel like nothing is shifting, okay, stop, pause. What can we turn on its head? What can we see from a different perspective? Where do we need that clarity before we try to move forward? Where are we perhaps lacking fulfillment, or how can we bring fulfillment to that situation? And that really feels like key. How can we bring fulfillment to a situation? You know, whether it's ours or another's, if people are lacking, if someone feels like they're lacking in a situation, how can we bring fulfillment to that? Okay. And in reality, it's by being who we are, but that's the biggest change, because that's the Tower card at the bottom. Okay. Energies this week and how to best navigate them. Lighten up. That's what I feel. Lighten up. And there's creativity at the bottom of the pack. Lighten up. You know, there's some things we can control, some things we can't control, some things we just need to dance with the rhythm of life. And I'm just laying cards out without any Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Overall. Gosh. And I can't believe it, they are pretty much the same cards as what they were with the first reading. And one of the messages with the first reading was very much about we see what we are ready to see. We receive what we are ready to receive as and when we are ready to receive it. Okay, and yeah, it's just there in front of me. So overall, again, we have the Six of Swords transition. And it was the card overall at the beginning of the reading. So, okay, I promised to myself to practice what I preach and embody the message. No more looking at what the reading was beforehand. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put them all back in the pack. We're going to give a real good shuffle, because sometimes, guys, with the tarot, it reflects where we're at, right? So, you know, if I'm talking about the reading before and the same cards come up, yeah, okay. So let's open ourselves to a brand new potential, a brand new message, and with the acknowledgement that what needs to come through will still come through. Okay. That feels lovely. That just feels so supported and so clearing. My eyes are being drawn to a nail that's holding a picture up on my wall, and I hear the word final nail. Okay, so the phrase, the final nail in the coffin, the thing that will finally finish everything and move things forward this week. To really look out for that. Okay. And it feels like there needs to be compassion, gentleness, strength, but gentleness. As the energies from the crown chakra come in, it's really, really important to do all that we can to ground into our root chakra this week. Self-care, root vegetables, soups, hearty food, belly laughing. I really feel that. Some good, deep-hearted belly laughing. Okay, right. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Overall. So at the bottom of the pack we have the Knight of Pentacles, which is really beautiful, because I said to my husband today, you know, there are many things I would like to change in my life, and there are many things that I'm grateful for, and if anything, the only thing I would actually shift is I don't have a horse. I've had a horse my whole life, and for the last quite a few years now I haven't. So this week in particular, really looking at, and the card underneath is the Four of Wands, celebration, really looking at, really connecting, really celebrating that calls to you. You know, I know a part of the reason I don't have a horse is, one, I can't afford it. Two, physically I wonder if I could look after them, but actually deeper than that, I doubt my heart. And that, keeping an eye on that this week, looking at perhaps why we may have avoided, what it is that will ground us, what it is that will help us to see the horizon, to make the changes needed. And that could be a gym membership, that could be a friend that you've been longing to connect to, or a horse that you desperately want, or a house move, or, you know, really trusting what's in our heart for the grounding and clarity that it can bring this week. Overall, we have the Page of Arrows, we have the Wren. So mentally, we're not quite there yet. Mentally, as you can see, with all the snow and everything around us, I mean, we could get snow this week, but it may not be that simple, or perhaps it could be that simple. And I feel myself, as you can see, backwards and froing, questioning the messages that are coming through, questioning my interpretation of the messages, and questioning the energy this week. You know, can it be that simple? Is it that simple? Maybe it needs to be more difficult. And really, really, really connecting to the reason behind we doubt what we are given. Okay, so let's do that. Let's step back. On the Monday, today, we have the Six of Cups. We have that reunion to our inner Salka, our inner child, that flow that's within us, really connecting on a deeper level. And I feel that my third eye all down my nose, like a sinus trying to clear out. And perhaps doing this through the week, ensuring that this energy that wants to come in is just flowing through beautifully and really shifting. I'm doing a face massage on a video, but really shifting that energy through and allowing what needs to come through in our actions as well, and in our feelings, and really connecting to them. On the Tuesday, we have the Seven of Arrows. We have insecurity here, and the insecurity is actually bound up by her own connection, her own fears, her own worries, her own mental instability here. And I really felt that with the energy overall with the Wren, is a very light, easy, simple energy that's confusing the situation. Okay, so it is about turning over that page. It's about turning over that old narrative and maybe looking at what is coming through the eyes of someone that's never experienced it before. So if you're joining the gym and you've got that little tail in the back of your head of, oh, I've tried this once before. Okay, that was then. You know, if you're finding a relationship and that little in the back of you, yeah, but that was then. And we all deserve, every part of life deserves to be treated as if it's the first time that it's happened, because the reality is it is the first time that it's happened in that way, with that energy, in those circumstances. Goodness me, on that date, however you want to look at it, it is the first time that that has happened. And that's going to give us some grounding here in regards to our own environment. So on the Wednesday, we have the Ten of Stones. We have our home life here. And, you know, really, really, really walking through that cave of our own consciousness. That's what I hear. Walking through the cave of our own consciousness to the awareness now needed beyond that. So one of the messages, and I will share that, one of the messages, because it's always there, was about expanding our consciousness, and how large that is actually going to get this week. It's that that's going to give some of the confusion, and what I really feel is to connect and to flow. So when I was doing a reading and a massage this week for a wonderful client, a wonderful soul, 1 minute I'm reading and chatting away, next minute I'm channeling, reading, healing, and observing myself do it. And although that was new for me, it wasn't new for me. It was what I already do, just all together at once in a more grounded, aware manner. And that really feels like key this week. Whatever it is that may be confusing us, confusing you, actually isn't different. It isn't new. It's part of who you are. It's about us seeing it in a new way now, us seeing ourselves in a new way now, owning our skills, owning our own gifts here. Because on the Thursday, our place here, yeah, so the Ten of Pentacles, yes, we can talk about home, we can talk about things that we share, we can talk about wealth, but ultimately it is the abundance. Oh, turn the card over. I literally, when I said the word abundance, the Seven of Arrows just flipped straight over. It didn't want to be seen anymore. The insecurity was no more. So if we can recognize who we are and what it is we are here to do in this world, once we're in alignment with that, you know, it doesn't matter what job we do. It doesn't matter what title we give ourselves, as long as we are being who we are and in alignment with our own divine timing, our own Ini, our own ability to receive, there's great abundance there. So really recognizing this week your place here on the earth and moving forward with that. Because on the Thursday we have the Queen of Swords, and I really feel that it isn't much different to what we were already doing, just on a different level, just on a higher acknowledged level, not from those around us. And all the time we seek that acknowledgement from those around us, we are going to be disappointed this week, because we have the Queen of Swords, right? She doesn't need acknowledgement from other people. She knows to nurture her own connection is the very acknowledgement needed now. It is the very growth that is going to move her forward. When I say her, I don't mean feminine as in gender. I mean our creative, reflective energy. If we can acknowledge the power of stillness, if we can acknowledge the power of beauty, if we can acknowledge the power of compassion, and creativity, it is that is going to move us forward, not through the eyes of others, but through the very stream of consciousness that is within and around us all. On the Friday, we have the Ten of Wands. Okay, so it almost feels like it's come out of the blue. I'm looking back over the rest of the week thinking, where on earth did the Ten of Wands come from? Okay, so we have a beautiful emotional flow there. We have, endurance with our mental ability, but a way of seeing it from a new perspective. And that gives us grounding and helps us to connect to our own innate beauty. And then we have the Ten of Wands. Then we have that struggle uphill. Then we have that carrying everything. But what I'm being reminded to look at is the word responsibility and how close that individual is to the very top. Yeah, that fire, that light that is guiding from a distance. Taking responsibility for what we feel this week, taking responsibility for the insecurities that we may sense as our own, taking responsibility for our place here and in this world, taking responsibility for our connection and how we see ourselves. On the Saturday is going to bring the first major arcana, which is the Chariot. Okay, the first opportunity to start aiming for what it is we want now. Recognizing actually in reality, no, I was going to say in reality it's always been that way, but actually don't be surprised by the Saturday if some of the things that we want are slightly different from what we have ever imagined. Gosh, I can see something in line for me. That would be interesting. But yeah, just recognizing that we are guided, okay, and that we have the strength to aim for what it is we are after on the Saturday. Being aware of the mist of our own need to understand. Being aware of the fog that our own yearning for clarity can bring, especially from a mental energy. It really this week needs to be from an emotional energy, the emotional mind. So last night I dreamt I was with Otorongo, with Jaguar, which is no surprise because I'm going to start running the Moon Ikey rights from March onwards. So I knew that these dreams were starting, but actually Jaguar is the emotional mind, our shadow, yeah, our ego, our really looking at your why behind things this week. So why am I concerned about X, Y, and Z? Why am I struggling with da-da-da? Why do I want such and such? And looking at what it is we've been relying on, the old narratives, the old ways of achieving things, even the image of ourselves, the old image of ourselves, and seeing just how that is affecting what we aim from and where. Okay, because on the Sunday we have the Empress. On the Sunday we do have the Green Woman. We do have the ability here to start really creating, okay, really start putting things in place. Now it doesn't mean that everything's going to fall in our lap. The Empress is an ongoing creative flow. Okay, so knowing that whatever we deliver now is going to impact the very seeds that we use in the next 6 months, and the very seeds that we plant now is obviously going to gestate and impact that ongoing cycle, okay? Because if we can recognize the insecurities behind our own abundance, if we can recognize the reunion now needed to a higher energy, a higher worth, if we can really connect to the beauty of, our own story and our own responsibility here, and what it is we need to now aim for, if we can really connect to the potential that is trying to come through, guys, there's a lot. Second week in January, we can start to see actually things may not have changed physically immediately, but energetically there are some mammoth shifts going on. And I want to say the word mammoth because it feels very ancient, very prehistoric, very That kind of real grounded, solid energy. Okay, so we have 2 major arcanas this week, and oh yes, marvellous. I've just realised that I think it's Mars and Mercury are going forward this week or the week after. I think it's Mars this week, Mercury next. I'm not too sure, which feels quite poignant as well. Not being sure in regards to what is actually moving forward feels key this week. But I do know that it's Friday the 13th this week. I do know that because I have an appointment booked with a client, but also I know Friday the 13th and it's the day of the goddess, right? All depends on how we choose to see things, because on Friday the 13th, yeah, now I know where the 10 of Wands has come from. On Friday the 13th, it's when we have the 10 of Wands and it's responsibility. So Friday the 13th can be a lucky day or a bad luck day, depending on how you choose to see it. And in theory, luck is our ability to prepare and take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of us. So on the Friday, it really feels like in order to step into that goddess, empress, creator, feminine type energy, we need to take responsibility for our thoughts, our emotions, our connection here, what it is we are willing to be part of, what flow we are willing to be part of here, and looking at the stories behind it. You know, we can say, I'm not going to do this because of this. What is the story behind it? What consciousness? I don't think the collective consciousness splits off and, you know, you have some people there and some people there. It's part of a big ocean, but some of us can go down streams, some of us can end up in rivers. You know, what consciousness do you want to be part of? What consciousness are you bringing in? Because the 2 major arcanas that we have are the Chariot and the Empress for the week of Friday the 13th of Freya, of the goddess. Really recognising what we're aiming for. Really recognising from what energy we're aiming, from what awareness we are attracting, what it is we are calling in, and what it is we are creating and delivering this week. We then have 1, 2, 3 sword cards. Now, I haven't got the 3 of swords here, but it has come up twice in the readings before. It does feel important to leave that pain behind, to leave that heartbreak behind, but there are still 3 swords here. So what I'm really, really feeling is, you know, a lot of the insecurity comes from our inability to see how much we have grown mentally, or our knee-jerk reaction to go back to old patterns and old ways of thinking. It's allowing time for that to thaw, allowing time for things to shift emotionally, okay, and recognizing where they haven't and recognizing where they actually are. And I really feel that. I feel confusion, I feel real mental confusion this week, but knowing that it's all part of the flow, knowing that it's all part of the journey. So we then have what part of the journey is to be confused. Part of the medicine wheel is the unknown, it's the north, it's, you know, it's the hero's journey, it's the adventure, yeah, it's the taking that first step. You know, a lot of the time, if we wanted to figure out every single relationship, if we wanted to figure out everything before we'd even tried it, you don't give it chance to then develop. You don't give it chance to then flow. You don't give it chance to become its potential by trying to figure it out in the very, very beginning. In fact, that actually leads to an insecurity. So even me now with this reading, trying to figure out exactly what is being said, I should have realised sooner. But it's like having to go through the process, right? Having to go through that uncomfortable process, trying to figure out what was being said, that while I'm saying that we can't always figure it out. Okay, so really, really, really looking at your actions and what is being reflected back here, letting go of the things that we can't quite figure out yet because it isn't time. Making sure that we are ready for when it is, okay? Knowing that that stream will come back. It will always come back, whether it's money and we're affluent and then we're not, whether it's relationships and we have loads of friends and partners or whatever and then we don't, you know, it's a stream. It will come back. You cannot hold on to water. You cannot hold on to these aspects of life. trusting that, so that we don't carry that into the weekend of taking on the responsibility, staying connected, clinging to these situations. The Tower year, right? Letting go, not clinging to these stories, not clinging to these emotions, not clinging to the way things were because it's safer and it's familiar. Letting it go. Okay, because then the heartbreak, the original Three of Swords in both the readings actually become separate aspects that we can break down and look at, which is our mental intelligence, it is our connection to the divine, it is the growth that is occurring, and it is our insecurity in ourselves through the process that needs healing. Okay, we then have 1, 2 Pentacle cards. Beautiful balance here of the Knight of Pentacles and the 10 of Pentacles. Being really grounded, really solid in what it is you share. Knowing that how you share, with me, I'd like to come in and go, boom, there's a reading. Instead, there's a process there. And that is how I work. Okay, so being really comfortable with what it is you share and how you share, because it's a reflection of who you are. This is what it's like to work with me. We go through a process. Okay, that's what's going to give the grounding. That's what's going to help you be at home in your own environment. And then we have one card, and it's I feel that in my back. One card is enough with the wands, because it's the 10 of bows, it's the 10 of wands, it's responsibility. Really this week looking at what we are choosing to carry forward into the following week, because it's that once the planets are behind us, once the energy is behind us, with that new moon that is coming up on the 21st, I think it is, don't know what sign it's in because I haven't connected to it, although I obviously am. Really, really, really looking at what we are choosing to carry forward and to take responsibility for that. Okay, this is how I am, this is what I'm going to take forward, this is taking responsibility for that. Okay, realizing that actually we are closer to the top of the mountain than we may notice, and that the fire that has been calling us all along, the creative fire that has been calling us all along, is part of the very thing that we now choose to take forward. Okay, so one card this week to sum it all up. We have the 9 of bows. There she is. There's Temperance. We have the 9 of bows, which is respect, or 9 of wands. We also have the 9 of arrows, which is dedication. Now in a normal deck, the 9 of wands and the 9 of swords together is like, the journey that we've walked, the trauma that has happened, the pain, the healing. And the 9 of swords, right? That just sitting upright, not being able to sleep, it just keeping us awake at night, and the worry. In this deck, I like the fact that it's respect and dedication. So really looking at the language behind things this week, really looking at how we choose to speak, the conversations we choose to have with ourselves. I can really feel that in the back of my throat. There's a lot of clearing that needs to occur here. The conversations that we have with others as well. And recognizing that it is our journey that helps us aim for what it is we are going after. It is our journey that helps us realise who we are and respect ourselves. Okay? It is our dedication. It reminds me of a medicine bundle that she's carrying. It is our dedication that provides the very bow. Okay, so very much about how we choose to look at it this week. And underneath the bottom of the pack, we have Temperance, which is balance. Huge energetic shift here. I really feel that huge energetic shift this week. And when I work with a lot of horses or whatever type of energy, if there's trauma there, if there's fight or flight energy there, if we don't always want to go into the stillness, we don't always want to go into that energy of feeling things. And that's where the emotional mind comes in. That's where that younger mind comes in to try and protect us, to take us away from having to go through that pain, that 3 of swords, that heartbreak. This week, keeping ourselves busy, chop wood, carry water, stay focused on what is in front of you and what it is you need to achieve, knowing that everything that you do, every step that you make is part of the dedication process. It is part of the respect process. It is part of helping you eliminate those sleepless nights. It is part of helping you heal on your own journey now. It is part of the very breath of life. The Ace of Swords there. Okay? It is the very arrow that we are going to shoot by the weekend into what it is we are trying to achieve. Okay. Underneath the pack was the Four of Vessels, boredom. Watch out for that, because yes, we can talk about trauma making us avoid sitting in the stillness, but actually boredom can as well. We can get so accustomed as humans to being used to that fast pace. Everything needs to change, constantly on the go, because it's what we have become accustomed to. So this week in particular, taking that time out. Why am I bored? Maybe I'm bored because I could be doing more. Why am I not doing more? What would I like to do? So in those moments of stillness, being present, knowing that even inaction is action. Okay. Take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.